1880, Bryn City. Chapter 4. Accidents happen. Lady Corbeau? Miss Corbeau, are you all right? I propped myself up on my elbow. I gazed around to see parts of my carriage falling, littering the ground. I covered my head for a moment until sure no parts would crash onto my head. The world spun like a toy top for a moment, then righted itself. A red velvet cushioned bench lay at my feet, the bench of my carriage. I'm fine. Did my ride just explode? A grenade flew under your stopped vehicle. You vaulted out of the top of the carriage. A bystander explained aghast. My father must have installed an escape mechanism to toss me clear, in case of danger. My words sounded as if from a distance. Hollow. Whisper. Are you all right? Just don't stand there. Get her a doctor. Lisette Lodge demanded of my driver, who wore signs of the blast. The short blonde surveyed the damage. I saw you fly out of the top of your vehicle, Whisper. It was cool. You tucked and rolled. How is your shoulder? It is fine. I'm fine and don't send for a doctor. I stood up. I really was fine. My carriage wasn't. Smoking remnants lay scattered along the street. I walked to my driver. Kevin, are you all right? Thank God your son wasn't with us today. I made the sign of the cross as I surveyed his black and tattered uniform. He nodded. He was okay as well. I moved cautiously back to join Lisette. A crowd had gathered. Who threw the grenade? I inspected the people watching me intently. None or all could have done the deed. I dismissed several people as likely suspects. The old man in the wheelchair and the two young boys all gawking at the ruined carriage. Whistles signaled the arrival of the security force. Captain Eventide. I groaned inwardly. Two green-jacketed officers turned the corner, followed by several more from different directions. Captain Eventide, handsome in his uniform, was surprised to see me at the center of the drama. Lady Corbeau is all right. I will escort her to her home. Lisette took charge of the situation. I let her lead, just wanting the comfort of my house and a change of clothes. Mine were tattered and dirty from my roll on the coal-dust-lined street. Whisper! The tall man cleared his throat. Lady Corbeau? Are you all right? He scanned my appearance. Whirr. Okay, the wheelchair gentleman left the scene. I will accompany the lady to the doctor's office. You there? Questioned the driver and the crowd. Get their statements. Captain Eventide delegated jobs to his underlings wearing plain green jackets in a professional manner. I opened my mouth to speak. Captain Eventide, I am going to take Whisper home. She is fine, as you can clearly see, Lisette said as she took hold of my arm and steered me toward her home, which was across the street. I had been on my way to visit her when the accident happened. Accident? Whatever. Really, Captain, I am fine. I just wish to be home right now. I thank you for your concern. Whisper, are you sure you're unharmed? That was a nasty explosion. I nodded in answer. I will make sure you reach home. He climbed aboard his sleek metal glider, hovering above with a ticking noise as the key rotated power to the craft's air ducts. Lisette ushered me to her now awaiting carriage. We didn't speak as we quickly toured back to my building. You can't tell my father. He will imprison me in our penthouse. I begged my best friend as we pulled up to the front doors of my building. Are you kidding? He is going to hear of it eventually. Her large blue eyes revealed her shock. Lisette, you know how he is. Look, I have survived worse than this puny attempt. Yes, about that. She eyed me seriously. We exited her carriage. I really didn't want to hear what she was going to say. I heard the same words from my father on several separate occasions. We nodded to Daniel, our doorman. I tried to act nonchalant, as if nothing were out of the ordinary with my disheveled appearance. We boarded the elevator in silence. I could tell she wasn't finished with the subject of my accident. Just how is it exactly you escaped injury? Lisette eyed me in the etched mirrored walls of our lift. I refused to meet those probing eyes. Mechanics. The carriage must have been modified. Kevin yelled and bam! The seat was activated, throwing me up and out of the carriage. I thought it was a plausible story. Did Kevin yell? I know I jumped. Up and away from the blast. Instinct, but could anyone leap that high enough to propel me from death? That was my story, and I was sticking to my story. There could be no other explanation. I didn't want to dwell on the whys or hows, just the whos, and that they're behind bars. We exited the elevator. Lucky. Like the bullets you dodged a couple of months ago, like the runaway horses last year, you seem to attract accidents. No wonder why your father is obsessed with keeping you out of the public eye. You're not helping, Lisette. Whisper, what if someone is trying to kill you? Like whom? And why would someone want me dead? Cannot be because I am a lady of the city. You haven't had any accidents. I have nothing. All would go to the next lord of raw materials. Or would it? The more I thought about it, the more confused I got. Why? I don't think so. I just happened to be more accident-prone than the usual lady on the streets. I didn't want to think how close I came to death. More than once, beginning with my mother dying because of an accident. I knew my father was worried about my protection. I fought his smothering solution of house arrest, as I called it. I couldn't explain how I escaped being injured. My body reacted to the danger. Adrenaline, that was it. Chemical reactions of the body allowing me superhuman strength and reflexes. Right? I entered my room, my haven. Straight into the closet I went. I retrieved a red and white skirt, a red waist shirt, and clean underthings. What if the mutants are picking us off one by one? Lisette gasped as she flounced onto my bed. I changed quickly. Mutants. Why would they want me dead? Oh, Whisper. You are so innocent. Those traitors want us all dead, being all icky and deformed, not like Lord Luca. I might add, they are power mad. Bryn City is a shiny place. Lisette paused to give me a knowing look. Her blonde eyebrows rose insanely high with expectation of my response. I left my room in search of tea and scones, the perfect things to dispel the nastiness of the earlier hours. Lisette sat opposite me on the green velvet settee, her red lips a thin slit defining the seriousness of her statements. The mutants will rip you apart with bare hands if they have hands and suck out your intestines, and the congen are worse. She made terrible sounds mimicking sucking actions. While she babbled, our mechanical man, Donner, brought tea and scones on a silver tray. He poured each of us some refreshment, smooth and efficient. Lisette, I gulped my heart along with my lukewarm tea. I didn't want to discuss congen. Why are you bringing up mutants to me? But the absolute worst are the first waivers. Could you imagine one being here in Bryn City? Oh, Lisette sucked in a large amount of air along with her dramatic pause. That's who's trying to kill you! A first waiver! She responded, ignoring my question. First waivers? Congen? Here? Give me a break, Lisette. Now you're just trying to scare me, I scoffed. Whisper, they were the first completely altered soldiers. They aren't even human, a bastardizing of humanity. How could they choose to become something less than human? How bad could life be to choose becoming a congen? Then commanding the mutants at the beginning of the war and murdering out their own kind. Lisette shook her well-brushed hair. You just like saying that word. Bastardizing. Dying, Lisette. They were dying. I scoffed. The war was before I was born. All I knew of our history was the talk among the lords, tutors, and from my father, the lord of metal and raw materials. And, of course, rumors and accusations against both the congen and the mutants from the people of Bryn. My father spoke out of the horrors of the war. He, out of all the lords, fought for our freedom in the War of Generals. My tutors barely touched the subject of the Civil War. I forbade the subject. I believed, as did so many others, a congen was responsible for my mother's death. My father claimed an unknown entity committed the act, congen included. Luca said a congen did the deed. His father happened to be there that terrible day. The congen and the mutants were the blight on our history. I imagined them to be evil-looking and devilish in appearance. I refused to understand why they did what they did. My father argued in the beginning Dr. Nestor's machine cured people of deadly diseases. Period. It was the generals who bastardized his machine. My father refused to hear slurs against the good doctor. He supported the idea many of the first waivers evolved or took the change into either congen or mutant to stay alive. The cured, he called them. He said the congen stopped the power-mad generals from taking us over. Lisette harumphed, sort of a snobbish snort. She brought me out of my thoughts. They did command the mutants. They were the ones who ordered the mutants to kill everyone. Massacred both the Confederate and Union soldiers, civilians, too. Her slurp of tea broke the silence. She munched a muffin. I was under the impression the generals from both sides ordered the mutants to kill all those people. The first waivers saw the misuse of the generals' power, on both sides. The congen only attacked the army to stop the total takeover of America by the rogue generals. Something about the assassinated General Lee's lost orders. Was my father wrong? What did it matter now? It didn't, and I was loath to think about either of those type creatures anyway. Besides, if it weren't for the congen, the war wouldn't have been so brutal, or devastatingly destructive for America. We were a long way from the icky mutants in Richmond anyway, and most of the congen safely imprisoned. Ladies! Father! I rushed the tall, well-dressed man. He smelled of heat and metal from the factory. I loved the secure odor, safe and constant, his barrel chest strong and familiar against my cheek. His thick fingers held my shoulder as if I were bone china. He inspected my new clothes. What is all this talk of mutants? He asked as he perused my red and white cotton skirt and camisole held together with a crisp white satin corset. The skirt was short in front, showing off my red stockings and lace-edged white knickers. In the back, my corset fastened tight with red lace ties that trailed down the back length of my ruffled bustle. My long blonde hair braided with matching ties into 4 thick ropes. Nothing, Father. Just rehashing old history. I made knowing eyes at Lisette. Do you like my outfit? Lord Chevron deemed September and October red and white. He is a genius, don't you think? I twirled, causing my skirt to flare out. I just loved it when my clothes looked great in action. My dear Whisper, every month you claim the fashion Lord Godlike status. Father was bored again. But if he makes you happy, he can be a god if you say so. He kissed the top of my head. He seemed preoccupied. Work? It could be worse. Lady Harmon could have inherited the seat. Lisette sniffed. That in itself would be a crime. Father commented with a sour look on his face. He didn't like the lady. Lisette pretended to swoon. She placed a delicate hand to her forehead. Heaven forbid. She would dress the city in black from head to foot. She is so Civil War. Father laughed. Are those orange muffins? How did he know that? Could he smell the orange? My parents just received a shipment of oranges from the Mendor farm yesterday. Donar made the muffins today. Lisette's parents, Lord and Lady Lodge, controlled the food of the city. May I pour you some tea? At his nod, I proceeded to dispense some of the light brown liquid to a cup. I placed an orange muffin on a matching plate and nodded for him to sit on the royal blue brocade-covered Empire sofa. Have you seen the new doctor? Father mentioned as he took a sip of tea. No, is he any good? The mechanical hand I made is good, but a copper hand would be fashionable. Or maybe I could put some decorations on my old hand. I glanced at my shiny brass mechanical hand covered by a red satin glove. It still worked flawlessly. No sound of the tiny gears and cogs whirling inside. I kept it oiled and cleaned every day, faithfully. Since I was 14, I fashioned myself new hands. I had 4 at last count. I left my hand in the same accident claiming the life of my mother. The carriage carrying us to Father's factory crashed and exploded sky high. I was thrown from our vehicle. A piece of the wreckage slammed down from the sky, effectively severing the hand from my wrist. Lord Skinner saved me from the wreckage. Okay, not him personally, but his servants. The transportation lord witnessed the accident firsthand, so to speak. He claimed bandits had attacked our carriage, possibly hoping to capture us for ransom. Something had gone wrong with the heist. Our mechanicals had exploded. I was never clear on the facts or where a congen got involved. My father told me what he knew, and that was that. My father was insane with grief. For the first year after my mother's death, we traveled, leaving Bryn City with her sad memories. He conducted his business through surrogates. By his accounts, we traveled to Baltimore and Atlanta. I was too young and didn't remember any of our visits. I very rarely dwell on the accident or my mechanical. In fact, I don't remember my mother or the accident. I was 3. The last 15 years have been spent in my father's loving care. Darius William Corbeau was the Lord of Metals and Raw Materials. They called him Lord Steel. To others, I guess, he did come across as gruff, as if made of steel. To me, he was the shining pillar of life, a wonderful guide and teacher. Nice try, ladies. Are you going to tell me what happened, or am I going to have to demote you to factory workers? Did I mention smart? Lisette gasped. In her book, factory work would be the worst punishment on the planet. I, on the other hand, would welcome work. I could work on my projects without all the intrusion of society. He saw my grin, perhaps some time spent with Lady Harmon instead. He saw his threat worked as my face went pale. Sir, it was nothing, just a minor accident, Lisette began. Father, my carriage crashed. I must have caused a malfunction when I powered it up. Even to me, my story sounded flawed. His eyebrow raised. Accident? You seem to be plagued by more than your fair share of accidents. Bullets, explosions. It was as if he were talking to himself. You weren't hurt? He inspected my body for injuries. She just is unlucky with any technology. Lisette giggled. My father and I shared a look. There were some things even my best friend didn't know. I am a technopath. I can manipulate all kinds of machinery. It was my thing. I understood mechanicals far better than I did human beings. Now, his look worried me. Father raised me, educated me, and loved me. I could ask for no more. He was my world. As our relationship was unshakable, I spent a lot of time in the offices at the factories he controlled. He taught me the intricate workings of our business, which was extensive. My learning his teachings brought us even closer. My father had one flaw, his obsession to keep me safe. I wasn't allowed anywhere alone. At first, I balked at the confinement, then understanding his fear I might die as well, his only family. I tried to put a lid on my complaints. As he wasn't one for grand balls and society galas, I stood for our seat at all the formal functions. I asked him to join us every time I represented. He did, sometimes for me. But I could tell he wasn't comfortable in the company of all the other lords. He was the oldest, the only one in the seats who still lived with the reality of serving in the Civil War. He frowned upon the fat lords who ran the most of the city's resources. They didn't know the meaning of survival, of loss, of fear. When I explained I didn't either, he scoffed and said I had lost everything. A mother, I really didn't understand. Father had given me a great life. I would always have him. The end of Chapter 4. Thank you for watching Chapter 4. Thank you to Midjourney, Canva, and Pixabay Videos for putting the art to my words. Please like, share, and subscribe. I will be posting all of the chapters of Dr. Nestor's Curse by Julie Maxwell, available only on Kindle. Look for the paperback. Again, thank you for watching.